So what could they do to mess with you now? You're going to find out. This one looks pretty benign, except wait, that's a negative. So that sets my teeth on edge right away, because negatives can be a little tricky, gotta watch them. The other thing is that 4 does not go into 9. Oh no! So let's see what happens when we try to proceed as usual. We're supposed to be putting this into a completing the square kind of format, changing general to standard so that we can get the axis of symmetry. So we're going to go through our normal steps of completing a square, which means I have to get rid of this negative 4. And that's easy enough for that part, but I have to get positive 9 divided by negative 4. So I'm going to get negative 9 over 4. 9 does not divide by 4 evenly. We are not interested in using decimals. We're going to keep it as a fraction form. This is because we're looking for the exact answer, and often fractions have to be rounded off. So I end up with this. Not a big deal, except that I got to keep going. So I got my negative 4, my x squared minus 9 over 4x. I have to figure out what's going to fit here. To do that, I would normally divide this by 2. So I'm going to have to go 9 over 4 divided by 2. A better way to write that, looking at fractions, is times 1/2. So 9 over 8. If you want a quick little cheater way to do it, when you're dividing a fraction by 2, you're just going to multiply the denominator by 2, because divided means it's on the bottom, right? So we have 9 over 8, but then we have to square it to get this number that goes in here. This would be negative 9 over 8, but we're squaring it so it's positive anyway. So we're going to have 81 over 64, which means we have to subtract 81 over 64, but we also have to remember that we have a negative 4 out here. So there's negative 4 times the negative 1 over, or 81 over 64 that we have to get rid of. So I'm going to have to actually multiply that by negative 4. So we're going to rewrite that. Y equals negative 4. Now I can just write my x minus 9 over 8 squared here, minus 2. But then I have to deal with this. So this is going to be minus 4 times negative 81 over 64. So that becomes a little bit messier, and we're just going to have to go through it step by step, because we gotta play with our fractions as we go. So this part stays the same. I'm just focusing on this part. And the first thing that I can do is multiply this negative 4 by negative 81 over 64. Now, you might be tempted to go negative 4 times negative 81 and then over 64, but we can cheat a little bit because we know that 4 goes into 64. So what we can do instead is just reduce it at this stage before it gets more complicated, which means that I'm just going to take this and I'm going to divide the 64 by 4. It's a negative times a negative, so it's going to be a positive. And the 81 is going to stay the same because we haven't done anything with it, but we've got a 4 on top and a 4 times 16 on the bottom, because 64 is equal to 4 times 16. So I can just put the 16 on the bottom. These guys have canceled out. So that's just a quick trick. Instead of going 4 times 81 over 64 and then looking for a common factor, we got a common factor. It's right here. Take it out before the numbers get complicated. All right, now we have plus 81 over 16, but we have a 2 here. What do we do with numbers when we want to add or subtract fractions? Well, we have to make it over a common denominator. So I'm going to rewrite this. Y equals negative 4x minus 9 over 8. It's all redundant now. But negative 2 over 16, or yeah, to be over 16 has to be 32 over 16, right? Because this is like 2 over 1, have to times this by 16, got to times that by 16, or you can just recognize that 32 divided by 16 is 2, right? So however you want to relay your old fraction rules in your mind, that's how we got to do it. So we got negative 32 over 16 plus 81 over 16 from over here, which means that now all we have to do is simplify these numbers. So I'm just going to write it here, I think, because it's easier than getting too close to the bottom. So y equals negative 4 x minus 9 over 8 squared, that part's all the same, plus 81 minus 32 should give us 49 over 16. So our final answer is that one. And all we have to do now is answer the question of what is the axis of symmetry. Well, the axis of symmetry, if you remember from our sketches and stuff, is in the middle, so that's at P. So we just have to look for P. Hey, look, there's P. So the axis of symmetry is x equals 9 over 8. So deceptively simple for so much work that we had to do to get there.